You have to do something big and important, or nobody will remember you when you're dead.
On May 20th, 2025, Gallup News published an article reporting that 1 in 4 men in the United States under the age of 35 said that they were experiencing immense loneliness, a figure higher than the national average and one of the starkest divides between young men and the rest of the population amongst wealthy nations. Compared to the peers in 38 other OECD countries, young American men stand out as a uniquely affected group by loneliness, worry, and stress. The problem isn't just emotional, it also carries lethal implications. In 2023, men accounted for nearly 80% of all suicides in the United States, roughly 49,000 lives lost, or 1 every 11 minutes. Around 20% of men aged 12 and older struggle with a substance use disorder, and gambling addiction rates among young men are triple that of the general population. Loneliness, addiction, and destructive behaviors are all transforming into a real crisis in America. And while the numbers are shocking, statistics alone cannot paint a true picture. That's why I went looking for a piece of art, literature, or film that could capture this reality in a raw and human way. I found it in Elijah Bynum's 2023 psychological drama, Magazine Dreams. This isn't the kind of film that you can just watch and walk away from. It's one that's been stuck in my mind ever since I saw it, because it's uncomfortable, it's messy, and it's unrelenting. At its core is Killian Maddox, an aspiring bodybuilder whose loneliness, identity struggles, and desperate pursuit of greatness mirror the realities so many young men face today. His obsession eats away at him, pulling him deeper into isolation and self-destruction. Magazine Dreams isn't just a study or analysis of Killian Maddox, but rather it's a cautionary tale, a raw, painful reflection of male loneliness, toxic expectations of masculinity, and the destructive places they can lead. For today's analysis, I believe that it is best we break this video up into 5 separate parts, in order to truly understand why so many young men are connecting to Killian Maddox, as well as what Killian Maddox represents, and the lessons that he teaches throughout the film. First, we'll talk about Killian's loneliness, how he's stuck in this tiny world with no real connections. Next, we'll get into the toxic masculinity that traps him, how he's chasing this impossible idea of being great, pushed by his grandpa's words, and his own obsession with a perfect body. Then, we'll explore his obsessions and escapes. After that, we'll face his spiral into violence, showing what happens when all that pain and pressure finally breaks him. And finally, we'll wrap up with why Magazine Dreams hits so hard now, how Killian's story is a wake-up call about the crisis of loneliness and toxic expectations facing so many guys today. So without further ado, let's start with our first chapter. Killian Maddox immerses himself in such a small world. His daily life comprises of the gym, his job, and his house. That's it. No friends, no family beyond his aging grandfather, and no support system to fall back on. Every attempt at connection feels awkward and stunted. Take his date with Jessie, for example. At first, it's almost sweet. Killian awkwardly invites her out, trying to present himself as normal. But within minutes, he sabotages it by blurting out that both his parents are dead. It's not that he's trying to ruin the moment, it's that he doesn't know how to filter or navigate intimacy. He overshares, desperate to connect but incapable of doing it in a way that feels natural. What should have been a small spark of human connection collapsed into an immense discomfort. It's clear that Killian suffers from some form of mental illness, could be depression, anxiety, or as many reviewers have noted, possibly Killian is on some part of the autism spectrum. His mind works against him. Hyperfixations, difficulty reading social cues, compulsive perfectionism. Even his YouTube videos show this. No matter how many takes he records, he always finds something wrong. He refuses to let imperfections slip through, which only deepens his inability to connect and feel normal. And the fragility of his self-worth is devastating. A single bodybuilding judge told him one time that his deltoids were too small. That one offhand comment became an obsession. From then on out, Killian put himself through a rigorous routine to try and fix them. A tiny comment caused Killian to spiral into a consuming fixation. What I think is the most striking about this is how familiar this feels. Killian is extreme, yes, but many men today echo these struggles, craving connection yet retreating into solitude, interpreting small failures as crushing defeats, masking vulnerability with control. In Killian, sadness turns into anger, and longing morphs into rage. He's a mirror of what male loneliness looks like when left to rot, when left to be alone and have no social interaction. If loneliness isolates Killian, masculinity is what traps him. His grandfather, who he refers to throughout the film as Papa, is the only person who shows love to him. But even that love carries a deeper message. Life isn't fair, and to survive, you must be great. Killian absorbs this idea into himself, making it his own law. In his mind, greatness isn't just a goal in which to achieve, it's the only thing that gives his existence a meaning to it. There's a heartbreaking contradiction here. Papa believes in him, sees the heart of a champion, but Killian twists that lesson. He manipulates it into something toxic, something that is actually harmful for him. What he interprets it as is, if I'm not exceptional, I am nothing. This pursuit of greatness is actually what manifests into his body. Every rep, every calorie, every vial of steroids that he injects into himself is in service of achieving this perfection. But that perfection is unobtainable. His body is never enough. His worth is always just out of reach. And in doing so, his body in the process, causing his liver to fail by the immense tumors growing on it, but refusing to get surgery because, in his own words, bodybuilders can't have scars. Killian doesn't know how to be vulnerable because to him, vulnerability equals weakness. When his therapist tries to create space for honesty, trying to open the floor for discussion during their therapy sessions, Killian performs instead of opening up. He lies to her. He tells his therapist about how great his life is, that he's achieved these goals, that his face will be on a magazine, even though he has come nowhere close to being able to get his face on a magazine. When Jesse shows him kindness, he suffocates it with insecurity and control. He doesn't appreciate how she just passively does not understand his passions, doesn't understand who these bodybuilders that he looks up to as idols are. His version of masculinity leaves no room for imperfection, which means that there's no room for him to actually be intimate with anybody, no room for him to show his imperfection, and no room for him to be able to connect with others. The modern parallel here is very obvious. Young men today are bombarded with influencers preaching alpha ideals. Money, muscles, dominance, control, all of these are preached to them on social media. Social media drowns them in images of curated bodies and luxurious lifestyles, creating the illusion that anything less than greatness is failure. Killian is what happens when you internalize that message to the fullest extent. When humanity is replaced with performance and strength is pursued at the cost of everything else. Killian's life is ruled by obsession. Bodybuilding isn't just his hobby, it's his religion, his meals, his supplements, his schedule, and even his sleep. All are consumed by the pursuit of an ideal he'll never reach. But when he's not in the gym, he retreats into distractions, pornography, YouTube, daydreams of fame and success. These escapes are safer than real life, where rejection is always waiting. Even in therapy, his one structured outlet, he hides behind performance. He can't admit weakness, so he talks to his therapist instead of with her, rehearsed speeches instead of genuine reflection. That very space designed to save him becomes another stage where he performs masculinity. This reflects a larger trend. Many men today substitute genuine human connection with digital stand-ins. Endless scrolling, online porn, parasocial attachments. These distractions provide temporary relief, but deepen detachment from reality. Killian's digital escapes, sterile, lonely, and unfulfilling, mirror exactly how modern escapism erodes real-world intimacy. Killian is trapped in a fantasy, one where he wants to be praised by people he doesn't know, one where he tries to ignore his real problems by distracting himself with alternatives. Eventually, the weight of all of this, the loneliness from his isolated life, caring for his disabled grandfather while struggling with awkward social interactions, and a betrayal by his idol Brad Vanderhorn, who uses him sexually and then ghosts him, the impossible ideals of gracing magazine covers and achieving bodybuilding fame like Brad, the obsessions with relentless workouts, steroid abuse that ravages his body with health issues like potential brain damage and organ strain, the untreated pain from childhood trauma where his father killed his mother, compounded by undiagnosed mental illness and anger management problems, all collapse in on itself. Killian spirals towards violence, his frustration hurtling into paranoia and rage, seen in moments like when he's racially profiled while jogging at night, intensifying his hatred of a world that dismisses him, or when he trashes a hardware store in retaliation against rude painters who botch a job on his house, only to get brutally beaten by them in front of his home. This rage boils over in specific acts. At his grocery store job, after harassing an elderly customer, he's fired by his manager who calls him a nobody, prompting Killian to threaten violence before storming out. He buys firearms and breaks into a bodybuilding judge's house with a shotgun, holding him hostage in a paranoid bid for recognition. His obsession peaks as he drives to one of Brad's shows, gun in hand, fantasizing about shooting him on stage in front of a crowd, imagining the cheers turning to judgment, but ultimately packs the weapon away without pulling the trigger, realizing in a flash of clarity tied to his father's violent legacy that it would make him no better and shatter his dreams forever. And in the film's final act, Bynum holds us in that raw discomfort. We watch Killian unravel, not as a villain, but as a man who never learned how to cope. In a gut-wrenching moment, he collapses into his grandfather's arms, sobbing openly for the first time, his mask of toughness shattered as he pours out years of buried pain. It's the only moment where we see him truly vulnerable, sharing real intimacy with someone that he loves. But the hope fades fast. He tries to break free, throwing out his steroids and crafting his own bodybuilding poster, desperate to redefine himself. Yet, he ends up back in his garage flexing alone in front of an imaginary crowd, lost in a haunting fantasy of applause that never comes to fruition. Killian's tragedy isn't just his own. It's a mirror of the silence around mental health, the isolation of a judgmental world, and the crushing weight of toxic masculinity that so many face, leading to collapse when left unchecked. Magazine Dreams hits hard because it doesn't shy away from the truth. Killian Maddox's story is a raw, unfiltered reflection of a crisis playing out every day. His loneliness captures the 1 in 4 young men who feel cut off from everyone around them. His chase for an impossible masculine ideal perfectly reflects the pressure of social media's alpha culture that tells guys anything less than perfection is worthless. His escapes echo the digital crutches so many lean on instead of achieving real connection. And finally, his violent spiral shows the devastating cost when pain and rage are left unaddressed. This film matters because it doesn't just hand us easy solutions. When Killian tosses away his steroids and posters, trying to break free from the prison that he's put himself in, only to end up flexing in his garage, we see a man trapped in a cycle he can't escape. That's why we never get the scar scene, proof that he went through with this life-saving surgery to remove the tumors in his liver. That would feel too neat, too hopeful. Magazine Dreams isn't interested in giving you these easy victories, leaving you with a hopeful message when walking out of the theater. It's a deeper warning. Ignoring mental health, worshiping toxic masculinity, and letting isolation grow can lead to heartbreak or worse. The 49,000 men lost to suicide in 2023, the 20% battling substance abuse. These aren't just statistics. These are people. They are Killians, each carrying stories of pain and unmet needs. Magazine Dreams pushes us to face this crisis head on, to demand better mental health support, tear down harmful stereotypes, and rebuild true and honest connections before rage and silence claims more lives. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you made it this far, please consider liking and possibly subscribing to my channel. I make a lot of content similar to this one every week. Please let me know down in the comments what I did great and what you would like me to improve upon. I'm very new to this and I'm very eager to grow my channel and improve in the best ways possible. Do you agree with my video or do you disagree? I'd love to hear that as well. But regardless, I hope you have a great day and thank you so much for watching.